This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to CWK Live every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm your host, Dan Zare, thrilled to be talking Star Wars with each and every one of you. Well, it's great to see all of you here. Let me try to clean up the video. I feel like it's a little grainy. I want to try to, maybe I can fix that. So yeah, what's up, everybody? Good to see all of you. Let's bring in our friends. Minta is here. This is the way. It's CWK Day. Hello, Minta. There is Daniel. Here we go. Daniel, great to see you, buddy. Mary is here. Happy Tuesday, also known as Andor Eve. Everyone, I want officially known that Mary coined Andor Eve, and I like that. Josh, hello to you, my friend. Congratulations. I believe you have 200 episodes of your podcast now. Congratulations to you on that. That's amazing. Blake, good to see you, buddy. And Ross is here too. Hello, Ross. Well, tonight we're going to talk all about the latest episode of Andor. It is the Axe Forgets. 400. 400. Sorry, my friend. 400. So I forgot to multiply the 200 by 2. I'm just going to go with that. And also, I can't remember numbers to save my life. It's a wonder I even know my own phone number, honestly. Josh, you can ask my wife. Tonight we're going to talk about the top 5 moments from the newest episode of Andor, the Axe Forgets. Well, it's only the newest until tomorrow. Any Star Wars news that is out there. And, of course, your comments and questions. So let's take a look at what is brewing in the world of Star Wars this week. So what is brewing in the world of Star Wars this week? Well, New York Comic Con was, of course, last weekend. And there was some pretty cool stuff in here, I believe, that talked about different things that are coming out book-wise from the world of... Well, first of all, we've got... Here's the big announcements, and this is all courtesy of Dan Brooks and StarWars.com. I think the biggest news for me is Rise of the Red Blade, an Inquisitor novel. Now, this is coming out... let's see... let me get the direct date. First of all, it's Delilah S. Dawson, who we very much know as fans of Star Wars. This is about the story of Iskat, I-S-K-A-T. I'm not sure if that's the actual pronunciation. Iskat is a Jedi survivor of Order 66 that turns to the dark side, joining the Inquisitors with the hope of uncovering the truth about her past. Iskat's hunt begins when Rise of the Red Blaze arrives in 2023, and that's all we know so far. What else do we have? We've got Sana Staros. She's going to have her own Marvel miniseries. And she's got a complicated history with both Han and Afra. And she's going to have a comic written by Justina Ireland, and it's coming out in February 2023. Then we've got another series of, it's called Star Wars Revelations, and this is the description on StarWars.com. Marvel's upcoming landmark one-shot promises to chart a course for the future of Star Wars comics. There's 4 new covers, which you should check out on StarWars.com, which are really stunning. You've got Peach Momoko, Brian Hitch, Alex Sinclair, Jim Chung, and Casper Wingard, all featuring different characters. You've got a cover of Vader with some sort of spider creature on his head. I probably should know who that is, but I'm kind of way behind on my Star Wars comic book reading. You've got the famous bounty hunters from Empire. You've got Afra, and you've got Vader dueling someone with a red. Who is he dueling in that? I can't tell who that is. Let me get a close up. Oh, I think that is one of Padme's peeps, I believe. And then Marvel's February 2023 Star Wars comics is Vader versus Valance, which is going to be really cool. Valance is a great character. Baylor Valance is his first name. And then Star Wars: The High Republic Chronicles of the Jedi. It's an in-universe guide. It's written by Cole Horton. There's a number of spreads that are featured on StarWars.com. And then Star Wars: The High Republic, the Lightsaber Collection is coming your way, which is pretty cool. I really like that a lot. There's a Kristen Baver's got an upcoming Star Wars 100 Objects book. And this has a Yoda Blissel, Blissl, a pipe instrument he can be seen wearing in Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. Well, how about that? And then Star Wars Timelines is coming out, according to this, February 7th, 2023. This is a book that is going to be massive. A lot of great writers on it, including our good buddy Clayton Sandell. So we're really looking forward to that. So that, to me, is the big news that's coming out this week. There's a number of High Republic news as well. If you're interested in the High Republic series, and many of you are, that would be a cool thing for you to check out. Okay, so let's see. Josh wants to know, did anyone go to NYCC? Let's see. One of our regulars is here usually. Was at NYCC, and I don't see him here today, but if he comes in later, I'm sure we'll chat with him. Oh, here he is. Ben, weren't you at NYCC, buddy? I thought you were. Jason says, hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late to the party. Got stuck in traffic on the way over. Hey, man. Glad you made it safe. Keep both those hands on the wheel, buddy. It's good to see you here. Daniel says, loves the High Republic novel so far. Just finished the second book. Oh, great. Yeah, they're awesome. Yes, Ben was at NYCC. Well, Ben, what was it like? I know you got to see Kristen Baver. You got to meet her. Is that your first time meeting Kristen? She's awesome. So that was fun. What other highlights were there for you? Maybe we'll do a new section called Ask Ben at the end instead of Ask Danzy, because I would like to know. While Ben is salivating over that, let's go ahead and jump into our topic to this show. The topic, of course, for tonight is top 5 moments from Andor, The Axe Forgets. This is the 5th episode in season 1. An episode I really, truly enjoyed. You probably heard this week on Coffee with Kenobi. I had Drew Taylor on, and the two of us really we poured over, pardon the Coffee with Kenobi Alliance plug. We really looked at The Axe Forgets and sort of what's going on with this episode. So now it's time for us to really break it down together with our top 5 moments. Now, before we get to that, I do want to bring something up I haven't in a while. Don't forget, and I have checked. I checked it earlier today. There are still a couple of rooms left for the Star Cruiser event with me, Coffee with Kenobi, and MEI and Mouse Fan Travel next summer, June 12th to the 14th. If you book, be sure to go ahead and go to coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel. Let them know that you are with me, Dan Zare, and the Coffee with Kenobi group, and they will do their best to try to put us all together. So fingers crossed that you're able to do that and join us. I know a lot of people aren't able to go to Celebration next year, but this might be a little bit more plausible for you. Hoping we can all see you there. Mason's going to be there. It's actually going to be his 10th birthday on June 12th, which is pretty fun. So we're going to all celebrate with him there. And then I'm bringing Corey Clubb and Tom Gross with me, and a number of our CWK Alliance members are going to join us. So that's really great. Mary said she always enjoys listening to Drew's viewpoints. That's really cool. I will certainly pass that along to Drew if he doesn't listen to the show or watch the show. Definitely do that. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's do our top 5s for The Axe Forgets, the 5th episode in Andor. The 5th one for me is, let's just get it out of the way, cereal. The cereal, I mean, look, there is something to that. Actually, there is. I'm going to talk about that in my next one, actually. But I just wanted to point out the fact that they're eating cereal that everyone is dying to try, and they're using blue milk. And it was just so fun and in-world and also out-of-world. And I got a big kick out of that. So, of course, yeah, cereal. Let's get the silly one out of the way. Ben says, it was fantastic. New York Comic-Con reporter Ben Anderson says, Kristen interviewed me and my friend for Stars.com. Dude, so you may see me there. The High Republic panel was also fantastic. I met all the authors, got autographs, and I got a few fun collectibles. Also bought Path of Deceit. Well, dude, that's great. I can't wait to see you on Stars.com. Look at you, Rockstar. Fantastic. Let's do some applause for Ben, too. Nice job, brother. Appreciate that. Love it. Love it. Good job. Josh is number 5, an actual example of eminent domain with the government taking private property to create a lake. Look at that. I mean, this series has got to be giving you so much material, Josh. So that's great. Minta's number 5 is Mon Mothma's child. I was unaware that she had a child. It was easy to see that she took after her father. Yes, that's just a mess, isn't it? Ross says, number 5, maroon fruit in the basket of cereal's dining table. Wasn't that a cool touch? I don't know that it looked real, but it was just cool that it was there. So yeah, good catch. Mary's number 5, like mine, space cereal. I'm so excited I can't talk. With blue milk. The scenes with Cyril and his mother were quite interesting. Yes, they were. Jason, Star Wars breakfast cereal is my honorable mention. Awesome. Daniel's number 5 is Syrah and the scene with his mom. The cereal, looking forward to seeing what his story develops into. Who is this uncle? Yeah, and will we even meet this uncle? Interesting question. Jason's number 5 is the escalating tension and suspense of the start of the mission. Ooh, that's true. Yeah, this whole thing, I heard some criticism. And all criticism is fair as long as it's intelligently done and open-minded, and I feel like that is totally it, because that's real criticism, is they thought it was a little slow or that nothing happened, but I feel like it's just the calm before the storm. I feel like this next episode's going to be crazy exciting. So we'll see, but I like the build-up. Ben's number 5 is the line for the episode, the tree remembers, but the axe forgets. I've already heard it used once this week. Really? Good. Yeah, I think that is a really smart line that Drew and I talk about a lot in Coffee with Kenobi this week. Mary says, Daniel, she had the same question about the uncle. Yeah, wouldn't it be interesting if we meet the uncle later? Will it be Uncle Ben? Related to Peter? Doubt it. Speaking of that, I've got quite an interview coming your way very soon that I'm excited to share. All right, that's a little bit of a very ambiguous tease. Let's go ahead and jump into number 4. Number 4 for me is Cyril's plight. So Cyril is eating cereal with his mother. And it's really interesting why now you kind of get a little bit of a window into why Cyril feels like he's got so much to prove, why he was so adamant. He certainly seeks justice, and he very much believes in that. But you see how his mother oppresses him even now as an adult when he's sitting in his room kind of wistfully with his neatly made bed and just very, very sad. It's very emotional sequence. He just seems very lonely, and he's got a really toxic relationship with his mother, and it's interesting. Again, all these characters are really being drawn out. They're not just this isn't just an imperial mustache twitching baddie. There's more to Cyril, and we're going to see more about that very soon, hopefully. Number 4 for Josh. Examples of trespass to chattels. Skeen rummaging through Andor's personal possessions. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff there as well. Interesting dynamic with this sort of dirty dozen, even though there's not 12 of them situation. Meet to cereal is number 4. Who doesn't love breakfast for dinner? Now I just need to find that cereal and some blue milk at my local grocery store. I hope we get some. I know there's a great recipe on stars.com for cereal bars, but I want that exact cereal, of course. Ben's number 4. Cyril's 2 bedroom scenes. The first has the light shining in and he's sad, like he's struggling to find the light in his life. Then the second scene is dark. He's ominously staring at Cassian's holograph. Chef's kiss. Ben, that is a good catch, dude. Really smart. Ross, number 4, Skeen's prison tattoos. Cratehead and By the Hand are known to Cassian, but we're still in the dark, and I don't trust Skeen. And I thought, uh-oh. When I saw something like, oh, Ross is getting a new tattoo. Pretty fun. It's pretty cool, like how it shows, like, you can tell a lot in World just through a subtle little line like that. It's really smart exposition, I think. Number 4 for Mary. The breakfast scene with Mon and the family. We've already seen her husband as a jerk. Now we find out the daughter is a brat. Guess she takes after the dad, so appreciate the support comment was very sad. Yeah, and you just kind of feel like, often with kids and that kind of pain, there's more to the story. I hope we learn what that is. Number 4 for Jason, the pace of oppression outstrips our ability to understand it. Nemec, I think that's the right quote. I think it is too. I have to check my notes, which I don't have here, which is not really fortuitous of me. But yeah, that's a good quote, and I think it's really interesting. A lot of good quotes in this episode. Number 4 for Daniel, a bit more ship time in the episode. TIE fighter flybys and the shuttle leaving. I love where they filmed in the cinematography as well. Yeah, the TIE fighter flyby, the one that goes really, really, kind of really slow and really low. Again, the way they're building up the danger of the Empire without showing us a lot of Imperial stuff. Pretty cool. All right, let's go to number 3. Number 3 for me. Deidre's on the case, so we only see her in one scene. But I really think this is smart. Because again, like we talked about from the previous episode with the Empire, this one is important because Deidre is obviously a much more serious character, or at least taken more seriously. She's on the ISB. She's a high up with the ISB. And she's trying to sniff out what she thinks are connections to perhaps a growing group of people that want to fight back against the Empire. And she says, if this were me, this is how I would do it. Because her partner says it's too random. Or he says it's just too random to be organized. And she says, or it's too random to be random. And I just think that's another really cool thing that they're doing with this story. Because, well, actually, Ross is going to bring it up later as I'll quote his in a second. But I think this is important. Because, again, while we're not rooting for the Empire, it's hard not to root for Deidre. And I just think that's great because it's causing a lot of conflict both on screen and for us as viewers. Well, of course, we want Cassian to win. We've seen Rogue One. We know that he wins. Or we assume that he wins. At least he's going to survive anyway. But we don't know about the rest of his team. And then conversely, we're rooting for Deidre. Not really rooting for her, but we appreciate her hard work, her grit, her determination. And it just makes her human. And making Imperials human so far has been a really smart way to tell this story, I think. Okay, let's see what other people have here. Josh is 3. Actually care for the villains with seeing an overbearing mother say to her adult son, you have no future prospects. Yeah, the overbearing mother, the toxic relationship there, makes you kind of start to understand Cyril. Again, while you don't support what he's doing, you can understand why he feels so conflicted and pained. Ross is 3. Hurt, saying to Deidre, it's too random to be random, about the small insurgencies, thefts around the galaxy. Yep, very similar to my number 3. But Ross had the correct name there, so I appreciate that. Jason 3. So interesting that the healthiest relationship in this episode is one between Deidre and her aide, and technically they're the bad guys. Right. They're humanizing the Empire, but in there's other perspectives here. I think that's important, right? Whenever you push everyone together because they're on one side or another, that they're all hive-minded, that's not true. It's just not true. And it's kind of neat that they're showing us different sides of things. Mary says, the axe forgets but the tree remembers. Both this scene and the scene a little later with Nemec gives more insight of this crew. A very smart title. Mita Deidre following up on the case. Looks like a lot of us really like Deidre and put it up there. Number 3 for Ben. Mon Mothma's daughter. Cool reveal, but she's obviously in on the anger against Mom too. She may become a hero of the rebellion, but she doesn't seem like the hero at home right now. Nope, seems like there's a lot of problems there. And some of it might be Mon Mothma putting work first, but we understand why it's so important. Daniel, we finally get a good look into the garrison versus the model. It was nice to see the real thing, and I felt like part of the crew knowing already. Yeah, you've got some great detail there, don't you? Josh says Cyril needs a good group of friends to help make better life choices. Exactly. He could join us in the CWK Cafe. We'd certainly save a spot for him as long as he brought cereal and no Imperial baggage. That would be fine. I think that would be fine. We're a very welcoming group. Let's look at number 2. Skeen and Cassian. So there are a number of conversations these two characters have, and the intensity escalates a little bit with every scene. And towards the end, when he has a knife to Cassian to his throat and takes that blue kyber crystal, and Cassian has this wonderful speech, like, if you want out of this, don't blame me. He's starting to see part of the reason why Skeen is the way he is. He eventually, when his apology actually, I think, is really great too, and explaining his brother and why he hates the Empire, and it's hard for him to trust a man who's only in it for mysterious reasons or perhaps even financial reasons. But this is just realistic, I think. I mean, I've not been in that situation naturally, but I feel like the way they're going out of the way to explain motivation and honest human psychology about Cassian understanding, no, this is why you're all mad or why you don't trust me. So don't use me as your scapegoat. I just really like that a lot. 2 for Josh. Too random to be random. Characters actually putting pieces together with tons of Easter eggs. Was a reference to Kessel about the events in Solo or Rebels? I mean, that's how I took it. That's what I'm hoping. Jason's 2. Lots of surprises in the episode, especially the revelation that the Rebels don't know how to release the ship they're going to steal and the toxicity between Cyril and Edie Karn. Yeah, Edie is the mother. So thank you for posting that name. Yeah, a lot of surprises. Man, I'm so excited for tomorrow. You guys are getting me so excited for tomorrow. Let's see. Mita says, quote, too random to be random, which is a great, and we know we're in the know. We're like, ooh, I know why. Josh says, I don't even want to estimate what the Sky Kyber will be a necklace for sale. Oh, I'm sure her universe or somebody is working on it, you'd think. Ben, quote, that's the closest thing to an apology you're going to get. Everyone has a story linking them to the cause. Yes. And I was surprised that Cassian shared as much as he did. Of course, there's more, but we'll see. Ross is too Luthen getting nervous from afar. If he's that anxious, you know how big it is for the big picture of the rebellion, because all we've seen is him being really cool and really, focused. But he's also human. I think that's important. Daniel's number 2 is Clem's admission of being there for payment. It shows that Cassian has a conscience and knowing they all need to be on the level to pull it off. So yeah, he's revealing a lot of honesty here. Maybe more than he has to other people in a while, as far as the level of allowing himself to be vulnerable. Mary's number 2, the evening before the heist, as the crew prepares. Seems like they have an uneasy truce between them and all in order to get the job done. Well said. Yeah, and it's great. I think that's just a perfect... See, that's why I like that kind of this one and the one before sort of build up to the next episode, hopefully, because, I don't know, when there's more put into it, there's more cost, there's more risk, and there's more excitement. And I think that's going to make for a great story. But it's time for number 1. The axe forgets number 1 for me, and we'll get to yours here in just a second, is Lieutenant Gorn's duality. We haven't mentioned him yet, but I really like all the scenes with him and how he works with the Empire. He's obviously in charge as a lieutenant. He doesn't like the Empire, does not support them. He's hoping to take them down. And the fact that he's able to act like this when we find out why he hates the Empire the way that he does, I just really find him intriguing. All these characters are really intriguing. They're just much more complex. I feel like we throw the word complex around a lot. There really aren't a ton of incredibly complex characters in Star Wars, but we've got a lot of them in this episode. And that's cool. And they don't all have to be complex, by the way. I'm not saying that at all. Obviously, we all love these characters for many different reasons. But complexity is, when a character is well-rounded or dynamic, it means they don't just have one personality trait or one arc. They've got several things that make them tick, and they learn and grow as the story progresses instead of just staying the same all the time. And I think that's why all these characters are interesting, both good and bad. Let's see. One for Josh. Cassian openly questioning the fact that Vale did not have a plan for weighing the payroll. We see him take charge and not simply go through the motions of a plan. Excellent. Ross is number 1. Cassian/Clem admitting he's getting paid and that's why he's there. It rattles the entire team, but it was the right thing to do in that circumstance. Yeah, the honesty. I mean, you may not like what he said, but you're honest, so that's important. Minta's 1. Cassian explaining that just because you're brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. You just don't run from it. Yeah, I like his dialogue at the end there. It's almost like a monologue. It's really great. Jason's 1. There's a difference between fear and losing your nerve. Again, right from that last speech, which is so powerful. Ben's 1. The final scene of the episode with Luthen and his aide. Seems like she has more authority than we were first led to believe. Those final words about whether this is the end of the beginning. We have to feel like this one will be one of the first major activities that propels the rebellion forward. And I feel like we've got so many firsts with Solo and with Rebels and other things. So, yeah, it's great to see where this all ties in. Ben's number 1 is Cassian comes clean about why he's there. He's a complex character that we debate as to whether he's a hero, but he shows he has a critical quality of a hero, honesty, yes, and his psychology really, he's rallying them together. He's bringing them, he's showing leadership qualities. And I think the most important part, I feel like the greatest leaders don't necessarily want to be in charge. They don't want the limelight. They have a vision. I feel like Captain America falls in that quality, or that category, and I feel like Cassian is showing that here as well. Daniel's number 1, Daedra and her discussing the patterns they were seeing. I love Daedra and her dedication in cutting a true rebel within the Empire. I know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with her. It'll be interesting to see what happens with all of these characters, quite honestly. Well, I think that's it. I think I got everybody who weighed in. Your next episode, Andor episode 6, comes out tomorrow, Wednesday, October 12th. And that means next Tuesday, we're going to give our top 5 moments from Andor episode 6. Ben was thinking Captain America too. That's fun. Josh says, good analysis, everyone. I agree. This was really great. These it's so helpful for me to process these and think about them as I'm preparing for the show and in Coffee with Kenobi. And hearing your feedback makes me think about things differently and emphasize things that I think are really important that I don't ever think about, or just I don't kind of cross my mind at the time. So I appreciate you opening my mind to these different perspectives. It's so cool. Ross says, honorable mention Zero's Black Series Stormtrooper in his bedroom. But yeah, that's certainly what it looked like to me too. Mary says, hard to believe it's the halfway point already with Andor. Wow. Isn't that something? It is the halfway point. That is wild. All right, let's jump into Ask Dan Z. Ben's honorable mention was the lieutenant. Well, okay, well, again, I think this should be Ask Ben. Ben, what was it like meeting Kristen? And how did you end up on the StarWars.com segment? I can't wait to see that. I'm assuming that will be in This Week in Star Wars, but I guess we'll find out. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that, Ben. I'm looking forward to chatting with all of you about Andor. And soon enough, we're getting Tales of the Jedi. Man, that's going to be tricky. How am I going to cover that and do a top 5? I don't know. Maybe we'll have to save the top 5 of that for when Andor's done. Golly. This is a good... Again, our cup runneth over. Start covering Star Wars these days kind of reminds me of being a teacher. It's like feast or famine. Although we're not really getting much famine when it comes to Star Wars. But in the summertime, I don't teach, but I've got all this stuff with Coffee with Kenobi and StarWars.com. And then, during the school year, it's like a massive feast of all kinds of things to do. So now we're getting that with Star Wars and all this stuff on Disney Plus. What a great problem to have. Have I watched Ring of Power yet? No. But a writer I really respect just told me the other day that I really need to watch it. Everybody else says it's great, so I need to. Daniel says, I love how slow this series is so far. So many details are able to be revealed. I know, it's going to be great to kind of plot it out like real history. Mary says, did you see the prices were raised today at Disney Parks for Savvy's and Droid Depot? I did see that, Mary, and I must admit I do lament that a little bit. I feel like it went up to $250 for a lightsaber at Savvy's workshop. So that's rough. I mean, that experience is wonderful. It's just absolutely wonderful. It's my favorite thing at Galaxy's Edge, but that's a lot of money. So that definitely will give some people pause. So who knows? What's the next con we can expect? Any big Star Wars news from? I feel all the big ones have passed. I don't know. I mean, Celebration's coming out in, what is it, next April? April or March or April? Whatever my spring break is, fortunately. So that's my immediate guess, but you never know when news will pop up. Ben said, after I bought Path of Deceit, Justin and Tessa were doing a book signing. After a nice chat with them both, Kristen was off to the side grabbing people at random to do interviews, and she grabbed us. She was nice in person as she is everywhere else we see her. Yes, she is the real deal. She's a cool person. She's awesome. So I'm glad you got that. Mary says, before Texas. I know. So if they make a new, I thought they said at Celebration earlier this year in Anaheim, they're going to come out with new models and new hilts. So that's tempting, but yeah, it's tough. That's certainly a lot to ask, and I understand kind of why some people would hesitate. That's totally fair. All right, well, if you are listening to this on the feed, this is just the first half of the show. The second half of the show, I don't have video of it, but I'm going to drop the audio of my conversation with the Star Wars team at Hasbro. I did it in the middle of last week, so I've got the audio of that I'm going to insert into the second half of this show. So if you watch the show live with me, thank you so much for joining me. It means the world to me that you take time out of your busy schedule during the week to join me. So if you listen to the audio of this on all of your podcast catchers, you're going to hear my interview with the team at Hasbro and a couple of other content creators as well, talking about the Black Series and a lot of things that I think you'll find really interesting as a Star Wars collector.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
I guess first one, Chris from Bantha Skull. Good morning, and thank you as usual. And I have to preface this first question by saying that Patrick recently said that he appreciates it when the tough questions get asked, so you have a chance to address them. So I'm sorry you're going to have to pay for Patrick's promise here when he's on vacation. But so with the first one, fans of the vintage collection get frustrated when we ask for a certain figure, and the response is, well, what would you take out of the line? This is confusing as consumers. We assume that TVC is sold for profit, and we would assume businesses would be happy to sell more for-profit items. That's just our expectations. If this is true, if we want a new episode for Luke, and why must we take out something else from the line if they both would be profitable for Hasbro?
Yeah, and Chris, it's a good question. And, the fans are thinking the tough questions, so thank you for asking it. We don't shy away from those. I would say for the most part, in a ideal world, it would be awesome if we could make every figure that you guys want. And, obviously as a business, like you said, make money off of it. But in reality, as with all things, there is a cap. There is a finite amount of resources between tooling dollars and human resources and things along those lines. So we do have to prioritize where we think the biggest bets are in terms of what you guys want the most and what will sell the most and what's the highest demand out there. So it's just, it's not just Star Wars. Like in anything that we do in the real world, we don't have unlimited, uncapped resources to get everything out there. But, we certainly work to partner with you guys on the ones that are most demanded.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, moving on. Tim, Boss Bounty.
Yeah, so this is similar to what Chris was saying, basically. So these questions have come from my sort of community. I put it out there to ask them, what they want to know, basically. And the first question is, so you often describe the vintage collection as the world building line. However, collectors are becoming increasingly frustrated that figures from the new media, and I'm talking about the newest media here, so not including The Mandalorian. So, for example, Andor and Obi-Wan, we don't seem to be getting the characters for there. So, for example, Andor, we only just got 2 for the vintage collection compared to the Black series that got 10. So how are we supposed to world build those particular, figures from those series, for example? And also with the Andor one, the 2 characters are from 2 completely different scenes. So it's almost like pointless sort of buying those 2 figures, because what are we supposed to do with them from a world building perspective?
Well, I mean, that speaks to just how rich the world of Star Wars is in my head. I mean, it's with TVC especially. I mean, we know TVC fans like to go super deep on characters in a way that even Black Series fans don't. I mean, I think Black Series tends to be more topical and like current entertainment stuff. It's also a much younger line, so it's kind of grown on its own at the time as it's happened. But with TVC, we're still trying to get some of those deep cut characters that people ask for. So it's finding the right balance, and sometimes that's getting a couple characters out because we can, and maybe we can't do 30 characters from Andor, but we can get a couple out, and over time that's going to build, and hopefully we get to all those characters in time. But not doing other characters, to Chris's point, I mean, it's okay. Well, you want a classic character, but you want new characters, but you also want this weird obscure alien character from the back of the cantina, and we understand that everybody wants all of that stuff all at once. It's just a matter of finding balance and moving forward, even making progress across all of those characters.
Yeah. And to Chris's point, actually, like we do give vintage some items that Black Series doesn't get. For example, the throne room was well received, and that was a giant play set for vintage. We have all of those, Bestman security guards with different faces, like Chris's point, like the deep cuts, the troop builders that you guys are asking for. It's definitely a balancing act for us. And we try to balance that in the right way. And, eventually, like, as you guys know, Hunter for Vintage is coming out, for example. Like, we try to go back and figure out what that right mix is and bring you those right characters.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, moving on. Dan.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see all of you. I wanted to ask about the evolution of the selfie series, and will the options continue to evolve on the app?
Yeah, so thank you for asking about the selfie series. I'm sorry, we're very excited about it, as I'm sure you guys saw that in the PulseCon panel. So yes, it just launched, so we're definitely gauging the reaction and the interest, and definitely gauging like and learning as everything that we do. We'll continue to see what there is to evolve within the options, and if what the next characters are and everything along those lines. Like, we'll figure it out. But right now we're focused on what we have out there, and would hope that you guys take advantage and make yourself into like stormtroopers and Mandalorians. Thank you for that question.
My wife is equally excited and disturbed that I'm an action figure, but I'm okay with that.
Oh, my daughter loves it. She's been like holding up Stormtrooper mommy all over the house. So we think it's really fun. Chris Borks.
Well, thanks for having me. We've seen Marvel Legends include figure pieces. We now see additional environment parts with the Indiana Jones Adventure series. In the past, I was told that Star Wars requires a lot more new tooling, and it's more expensive to produce than Marvel Legends. But now that Indiana Jones is getting all new tooling, I'm wondering why we're not getting additional parts for the Black Series line.
Yeah. So first, we're really excited about revealing and launching some Indiana Jones figures. And we know that's well received. So glad to hear that, there's definitely offerings there that fans would like. To be fully transparent, like, Indiana Jones is a new line, so they come out there and they're treasure hunting. We're offering things that make sense for the line. It is a different business. And it is a different business model. It is a different line, and it does have different resources behind it. So it's just, without getting into like the details of what that means, it basically means that we are just doing what's right. What is feasible for one line may not always be feasible for the next. So we do what's right for the business across the board.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Matt.
Thanks for doing this, everyone. Just my first question. It seems that a lot of products that were dated for January to March 2023 with an estimated release date are starting to ship now or have shipped in recent weeks. A lot of our communities asking and questioning, I guess, not so much why it's happening, but now that it has happened that these items are shipping out, will the Star Wars team look to amend the Star Wars release dates to help collectors budget out the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's a good question, and thank you for bringing that up for the community. So, like, as you guys know, it's been unprecedented times for us. So when we give you a date, it's always with the mind to try to say everyone who pre-ordered should get it by that date. And shipping times have just been varying. So on the one hand, I am glad to hear that things are going out earlier versus later. And as we stabilize, we'll continuously narrow those timeframes for you guys. So in terms of communication, we'll continue to work with the retailers to see if there's anything that we can do to continue to provide more visibility. But yeah, like, bear with us. It's good news that you guys are starting to get items a little bit faster, and hopefully, like, we'll just firm up those communications when we launch things going forward.
Thanks.
So I think that's everyone. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please let me know, because it's hard to see in Teams all the faces. So I'm going to go back up to Bantha Skull. Chris, if you want to start us off again in the next round.
Sure. And I swear I didn't coordinate these questions with Tim, but the response when we ask why does TBS get so much more new media figures than TVC, the answer recently has been that one of the answers is that TVC tilts towards the original trilogy as a reason, but that just doesn't pass the math test. Aside from Lobot and the Bespin Guards, every other recent OT figure also exists in TBS. Meanwhile, TBS has Ewok Village Leia, which the vintage collection desperately needs. So it's really only a net of one figure. If we just look at the Bad Batch, there's just that one small set, there's 6 TBS figures for the entire crew. So the math doesn't add up. That the OT bias is the reason for the lack of new media figures in TVC. Isn't the real answer, and this isn't a loaded question, just that TBS has a much larger tooling budget?
Well, I mean, they are different product lines, but I mean, it costs more to make a Black Series figure than it does a TVC figure. Like that's very straightforward. But it really is about the balance and continually finding a balance there. I mean, we're not favoring new content necessarily over old content or old content over new content. I would say that Black Series, generally speaking, like leans more towards new stuff, but that's it leaning that way. That doesn't mean that TVC is going only towards classic trilogy stuff. I mean, we're continually trying to do things in there, but and I laugh when I see these questions sometimes, just because we'll see Black Series people feel like they're not getting all the figures, and TVC people figure like they're not. Can we just
take a time out? There's way more newly tooled TBS figures per year than TVC. Isn't that just a fact? I mean, I don't think we're it's completely newly tooled figures. Isn't there more TBS?
I don't have the numbers in my head, but I mean, it's comparable for the number of figures that are in the line percentage-wise.
Right. But we're getting a lot of repacks and retools, whereas every live stream, it's TBS starts with either Eric or Patrick saying, brand new from the ground up. That's what every figure seems to be. Well, and we get a new wrist or a new head or something like that.
Yeah, and we are doing that stuff in TVC too. But it's also looking at deep cut figures in TVC, and sometimes there are just efficiencies there. So maybe the figure's not completely new, but it's because it's a way to get more of those figures and more of those deep cuts out.
Okay.
Yeah. And we do, again, we do focus on things like play sets and throne rooms that take up tooling that you guys don't see necessarily, that are huge, that we think, someone mentioned world building for vintage. So that's definitely also part of it. But yeah, no, I hear your frustration. It is funny, to Chris's point. We do feel like we sometimes get on calls with Black Series fans, and they were like, even 6 months ago, they were complaining how vintage has so much more. So it's a balance. And it ebbs and flows based on when we're able to release the news, based on when things start hitting shelves, for example. So, bear with us. We just have so much more news to share with you guys also. And yeah, no, we do understand the optics, and we definitely try to balance what is right for the group.
So if I could just make one takeaway to recap, Jing. So play sets and vehicles come from the same tooling budget as figures?
I mean, holistically, they all come from a finite amount of tooling budget that we have to allocate across the entire company. So it's something that we always constantly balance.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, Tim.
Okay, thank you. So second question is, the news that the vintage collection was keeping the plastic bubble was a really welcome piece of news. Lots of people had great fears about what was going to happen to the line if that went to the sort of cardboard boxes that you're using for, like the Dungeons and Dragons, for example. However, once again, with the most recent Walmart exclusives, collectors are being sent their figures in bubble mailers. Now, I know many instances where somebody's ordered 10 figures and not even one out of those figures has arrived in mint condition, basically. So what are your plans to make sure that companies that you partner with understand that these are collectible items and need to be shipped in boxes with protective bubble wrap? Another example, it's got so bad for some of my friends in the States that they're actually using a UK retailer that's got a very good reputation and to get their figures in mint condition instead of risking buying them through Walmart.
Yeah, Tim, this question has been brought up before, so thank you for raising it again. So we are aware, we understand that, there are frustrations there. We do partner really, really closely with Walmart. I can tell you that the conversations are happening constantly. So it's something that, it's in all our best interest to do what's right for you guys, make sure that you guys and we understand that these are collector items. You want them in condition and all of that. So I can only share with you that those conversations are definitely happening. I can promise you that. And then, hopefully there are news to share in the future, but we will definitely always talk with every retailer on what is the best way to get you guys what you ordered.
Yeah, because it doesn't really affect me because I'm in the UK, and but
Yeah.
I know that my American friends, as you say, it has been brought up on many occasions. But even the most recent Walmart exclusives, the Stormtrooper, the Bespin Guards, are all arriving damaged. So
yeah, no, we understand the frustrations, and thank you for raising it on behalf of the people overseas here. But no, we get it, and we will continue to partner closely with all of our retailers who've been great, but there's just complications, and we'll definitely always partner with them closely.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Dan?
Okay, so this is similar to what I asked at PulseCon, but when I brought up the retro line and I saw Chris's face light up, I knew we were separated at birth and we're probably brothers. So that's very exciting. But I just want to talk about.
Yeah, my desk is covered with figures. So.
Yes, I'm in my classroom, but at home, absolutely. So I'd love to talk more about the retro line and the challenges to making this line all that it can be.
Yeah, well, I think people generally understand that. Technology has advanced a little bit since the 70s, and I think the biggest challenge on retro is not making it look too good. It's understanding, and I've talked about this in the past. Understanding those classic processes. Wax sculpting or acetate, and just the manufacturing methods from back then, the materials they were using, and even to a lesser degree, the amount of reference they had. And you look at some things like the classic Kenner Stormtrooper blaster. Like that thing, if you look at the prop reference, it's reversed. Well, it's because the images that Kenner got at the time, they were just 8x10 photographs. They were reversed when they printed the photographs for him. So just understanding little things like that defined how those original figures looked in the wax and the acetate sculpting. And the limitations of that versus digital, I think that's kind of the biggest challenge and the nuance of making a really nice retro figure.
I'm sure Chris can talk all in all about it.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to keep it short. I want to just talk for an hour about that, but.
Chris, Bort.
Star Wars action figure collectors are currently paying a premium price for the Black Series Deluxe line. Again, in comparison to the 6-inch Indiana Jones line. It includes head sculpts, extra sets of hands, lots of accessories, build-up parts at $24.99. How does that price difference come about in comparison to the Black Series Deluxe line?
Yeah, it is just a different line, like I mentioned earlier. I understand how it looks in certain aspects, but Indy is a brand new line for us, and we're really excited about it. But it is a different line with different business models behind it, so it's hard to dive deeper beyond that. And Star Wars, we have high deco items and things like that. It's just different. So we're definitely keeping those differences in mind when we launch the item. But thank you for raising that. I think it's interesting to hear some of that. But yeah, it's a different line. Go ahead, Whitney. Whitney, were you raising your hand?
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
No worries. I didn't know if you wanted to chime in. Matt.
Just a question regarding the plastic between Black Series, or is there a different plastic between Black Series and TVC head sculpts? I think if you look at the recent Andor reveals, Black Series continues to have this sweaty appearance, or what's being called sweaty appearance by the community, where the TVC figures are looking very matte, and it's almost like the 375 heads are looking more photo real and realistic than the Black Series heads, which seems a little strange given the scales and the ability for detail. Just, is there a different plastic that's being used for the two, and is the sweaty appearance coming from the plastic being used for Black Series?
There's probably some of that. It's not a different plastic. I mean, it's the same plastic. They're different vendors. They're made at different places. The way the paint's applied is a little different on each thing. So there are nuances that will cause subtle differences between things, but there's not an intentional like different plastic that's being used that would cause effects like that. And I think you'll see variances like that even within Black Series from figure to figure sometimes too, or even the same figure, just different days of production and atmospheric effects and all that sort of thing. So
are you guys like, is the sweaty appearance something that you guys are aware of, or is it?
I've seen what you're talking about, and it's just part of constantly, like, because each project is its own thing and like has nuances, and you have to chase each problem on each thing separately, because you can get the same effect different ways. So you have to figure out why that's being a specific way on that figure versus on a different figure, and chase that. And we try and address all those things, and each one's, even now, and we've got a lot of experience doing this, and each one's still a little bit of a learning process going forward, because they are each their own beast. So.
Cool.
Oh, thank you. Back up, round 3. Chris from Bantha Skull.
Okay, my confrontational questions are done. The quality of the newly tooled vintage collection figures in 2022 is absolutely incredible, but this presents a little bit of an inconsistency or a dilemma in our collections. We have an outstanding figure of a relatively low visibility figure like the Mithril, but for absolutely cornerstone key figures like Episode 4 Luke and Leia, and I would add Han and Ben to that as well, we have substandard figures by comparison. So a low importance character like Mithril, we have a great figure. High importance characters like the OT main characters, we have really poor figures. Do you feel any pressure to bring those up to the current standards, considering what you're doing with the barbell hips and the rocker ankles and everything? Do you feel any pressure to bring those core characters up to today's standards?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say pressure, but because we're fans too, like, we want to do that. It's, again, with TVC especially, it's a balance of, I mean, we don't want to spend every time we make an incremental improvement to a figure, we don't want to have to go back and redo every figure we've done. So it's finding the right balance to, like, okay, like, when's the right time to do a new Han figure or a new Chewie figure or whatever, and go back and incrementally increase or improve those figures. With the classic characters, and it's been a while since we've done those, yes, that's absolutely on our mind. Those are important characters. Just to be very direct about that, yes, like, we want to get to those at some point, but prioritizing those over an Andor figure, I mean, it's that juggling act. And, like, we appreciate the questions and you guys constantly asking for those things, because it keeps it on top of our mind that is an important one for you. But
can I just add one more feedback on that?
Sure.
When you mention those incremental updates, I think that's why it's very important to get contemporary figures done at the same time, so they visually are consistent. Sometimes you have these incremental updates like photoreal that makes one new figure stand out drastically on our displays from the old figures. So that's, I think, to Tim's point about the trickling of figures, why it can get a little frustrating, because you get them over time, and then when you put them together, they don't necessarily make a visually cohesive presentation because of those incremental changes. So from a collector standpoint, I appreciate it more when you get a subset done in a relatively short period of time, so that the figures that go together look like they're part of the same line.
Right. Well, and I get that. And I mean, our goal is to try and get through new stuff and kind of build out collections as quick as we can. I mean, we're blessed with a lot of content to try and get to, though. So we can't do it all. but we'll try and do as much as we can, as quick as we can.
HasLab figure packs. Thank you.
Keep
the ideas coming.
No, what we do like to hear, like we've seen the, requests to bring back the originals and everything like that. So it's always good to hear from fans on what they think. Tim.
Okay, thank you. Question 3. So this is about droids in general. So if a figure such as B2 Emo or Ned B are released by Disney in their Droid Factory line, does this mean that you are unable to make them for the vintage collection? So I guess the question is, would you advise collectors of 3.75 to buy those because you're never going to be doing them in the vintage collection?
Yeah, I mean, we love our partners at the parks, and we're excited that they have these awesome offerings on their side for sure. It doesn't prohibit us from making it ourselves. So there's always a chance that we go back and make those droids ourselves. But yeah, I mean, for now, they have these awesome offerings, and anyone should buy it. But we can certainly make it as well.
Right, because that kind of goes back to my original question. You've released Andor in that outfit where he interacts with B2 Emo, but we don't have that figure. So people are literally scrambling around for people that are going to the parks or on Shop Disney to get the Droid Factory version. So yeah, but thanks for clearing it up. Yeah.
Great. Dan, Coffee with Kenobi, and we are short on time, so I'll try to answer. Chris and I will try to answer a little bit quickly, so we can get through another round at least. Go ahead, Dan.
Sure. I just want to know what is the most fun aspect of working on Star Wars, both as a fan of these collectibles and as a creator?
Wow, the most fun part is getting to see everything before you guys do. It's really contributing to a universe that I grew up loving and playing with, and now as a designer on Star Wars for Hasbro, it's getting to create toys for kids like I was. I mean, that's a super special thing, getting to share that.
Yeah, I have to say the people. We work with some of the most passionate people that love Star Wars, just like you guys, to its core, and so that brings an environment day to day that's just amazing to work with, and a creativity and just dedication to the job. So it's fun, and seeing the entertainment working with Lucasfilm, who are such great partners, is definitely a perk that we all imagine. It's a lot of fun every day. All right, Chris, sports, galactic figures.
The retro collection's been out for about 3 years now. We didn't really see an impact on the value of the originals on the secondary market. I know that one of the reasons the sticker was placed on the packaging, the retro collection sticker, was to make sure that people understand that this is not an original kind of figure. But now that we've seen that it did really have no impact on the value, is there a way on how to remove that sticker for future releases? And I don't think you're doing that with Indiana Jones either, right? So I guess that's my question. Is there a way on how to get that sticker off of the card back to have that card art unobstructed, basically?
Well, it's an interesting thought. I know the sticker was put on there and the decisions were made before I actually joined Hasbro, but it was done, to your point, as part of a differentiation, but also part of a way to celebrate retro and kind of call out that these were retro figures, and just part of the overall branding for that. I think it also does harken back to some of those Emperor figures, bursts and stickers that were on the original figures. So I mean, like I said, interesting thought. I mean, we certainly talk about that sort of thing and how we evolve branding and packaging all the time, but right now there's no plans to remove it. So
okay. Thanks.
But thanks for raising. We always want to hear what you guys think. All right, Matt.
I'm just gonna shake it up a little.
shook it up by freezing.
Lobot, multiple Bespin guards, and
wait.
other classic trilogy
Sorry,
figures.
Matt, can you start over? You froze right as you started to ask your question.
Okay. So you got the bit where I said TVC have a lot of new sculpts?
No, the last thing we heard was I'm going to shake it up a bit.
Okay. So TVC in Black Series collectors' minds have a lot of new sculpts, be it a Lobot, multiple Bespin guards, amongst other classic trilogy figures, and not to mention a Book of Boba Fett appearance with the deluxe vintage Boba Fett. What do the Black Series collectors need to do to let the Hasbro team know that we also want these classic figures? And can we look to mirror the original Kenner 96 in the 6-inch series over time?
Over time. Thank you for adding that in, because, man, the original 96 is a big ask, even in TVC. Like, we always reference back to that, but, man, it is a long haul ask. I think, to your point of what can you do, I think asking questions like this, asking other fans through your sites, like, what are the important figures for you guys? Because we do look at that, and what are those top ranking characters that you guys really want? I mean, TVC and fandom around TVC does an amazing job that way with ranking brackets and votes and all sorts of things that the fan community does. And Black Series does do some of that as well. I think just keep doing more of that, and that'll help inform those choices in the future, because it's, like we said, it's balances. Black Series is a younger line and doesn't have as deep of a history as TVC does. So finding ways to do right figures in the time with content and with what's interesting people at the time and what fans really want is important. So,
thanks.
All right, speed round. I'm trying to get one more round in there. Chris, let's go.
Okay, I'm going to jump ahead to a short question. Can you provide some more details on the recently pipelined Episode 6 Darth Vader? Will the portrait reveal be accomplished via swappable heads or a removable helmet? And will it have interchangeable hands like the Dark Times Vader?
Well, we'll have all sorts of crazy details to show you when we actually reveal the figure. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it will use some parts from that figure. It'll also have new stuff for you guys. So
you can't just answer the swappable head one. Little tease. Give a little.
I think I can say it's not a swappable head.
Okay, thank you.
Emily is working diligently on that figure for you.
Yes.
Enough teasing, Chris. Boss Bounty, Tim.
Okay, why aren't the Retro Collection Bounty Hunter 2-packs available outside of the US when other Amazon exclusives have been? And are you aware of the pricing errors that we consistently have on Hasbro Pulse UK? For example, for the Rescue set was, I think it originally went up for £110 when the US version was $75, and now they've since corrected it to £75.
Right. Yeah. So, I know that the Pulse UK site was corrected recently. So luckily, the fans alerted us. We corrected that. So we'll definitely keep working to make sure that those go out correctly globally. In terms of, what is available outside of the US, thank you for bringing it up. I actually did already send an email out to our UK partners to try to figure out, what's going on for sure. But we'll constantly work closely with those all around the world, UK and beyond, on bringing those figures successful to our fans, because I know that you guys want it.
Yeah, it just seems to be those two Bounty Hunter Retro 2-packs, both the IG one and the Bosk one. They just were never available on Amazon UK to pre-order. So
got it. All right, yeah, I'll let them know. Thank you. Dan, Coffee with Kenobi.
Sure. My listeners love all the figures. They can't get enough of all the lines, but it seems like the Black Series is the predominant, most popular one, at least among my Coffee with Kenobi family. What do you attribute that success for that line to?
Well, that's a tough one, because I don't think of it necessarily the same way. We balance both vintage and Black Series stuff. So like we've said multiple times today, I think TVC figures get deeper cut characters often, where Black Series tends to get more current entertainment stuff and more like latest greatest. But that's not a hard rule either way, and I think we try and dabble in both lines. And so I wouldn't say it's the predominant scale. It just happens to be the larger scale. So it can do more detail and have some things that TVC can't. But TVC also gets vehicles and play sets and all that fun stuff. So
I think it's all great. I just want everything to be retro, but I'm selfish that way.
Don't get started on retro. We got a minute left. Chris Sports, go ahead.
Sure. I think Chris from Manthaskull already, touched up on this, but I do want to ask that question too. So you're gonna hear it from me as well. With the Black Series and TVC, we see action figures released from all of Star Wars Entertainment, but when there is new Star Wars Entertainment coming out from Lucasfilm, we see the focus shift to the new entertainments. Black Series focused on Kenobi. We saw Mission Fleet focus on Kenobi, Retro focused on Kenobi, and then TVC came around and we only have, I think, 3 figures so far with another 3 coming. Now with Andor, it's the same thing with only 2 TVC figures announced so far. Why is the Vintage Collection excluded from focusing heavier on the new entertainment? Because really the new entertainment is what we're really hyped up for now, and we're watching Andor every week, and there are basically no figures available.
Yeah, I mean, TVC isn't excluded from that, and we try and do stuff in there, like we've said. But I mean, you guys, I would say 5 minutes ago, you guys were asking about why can't we get more classic trilogy figures or redos of Han and Luke and Leia. So it is the ongoing balance of that, like wanting to address those classic figures, get those out, or get some other deeper cut character out, and do a little bit of everything, and instead of focusing purely on one piece of entertainment for TVC. And it just, TVC has such a rich, long history of stuff, and trying to raise all of that at once is a different challenge than trying to address stuff like straight on and dive in. I mean, if we did nothing but Andor figures for a year, I feel like the community response would be, why didn't you do this figure from the original trilogy? And why are we only seeing Andor? So it's just a balance. And we're constantly working towards improving that balance and getting you guys more of what you want. So like I said, keep asking the questions and keep doing the surveys, and let us know what's most important specifically for you guys. Because it can't be in all of it kind of answer. It needs to be very focused.
That's your problem with 3 3/4 inch. The 40-year history, so many generations of Star Wars fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want it all. It's a good problem. You guys want it all. It's a lot of rich history there. Matt, last one. Close us out.
I'll make it quick and easy. Any plans for vehicles or beasts in the 6-inch scale for 2023?
Yeah,
Yeah, go for it, Jane.
No, go ahead.
Well, we don't have anything to announce at all, but we're constantly looking at that sort of stuff. I mean, if there are meaningful things for you guys that you really want, by all means, post and scream out loud about it, because we're watching. We love to hear that, but there aren't any plans for it currently.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
Mary, have a great week. I hope all of you have a great week. I can't tell you again how much I appreciate you joining me and supporting me. It's awesome. Another way you can support me is becoming a member of the CWK Alliance. You get access to exclusive weekly video and audio content, and it's also a way for you to give back to me and help me live this amazing Star Wars life that I'm fortunate to have because of each and every one of you. Don't forget, again, if you are interested in going on a Star Cruiser, why not go with me and MEI and Mouse Fan Travel this summer 2023 from June 12th to June 14th. Love it. Ben, great to see you tonight. Thanks for listening to me about Comic-Con. I was excited to share that experience. Well, I appreciate you sharing it, man. Daniel says, see you out there. Love that. I love that. Blake, we love you too, buddy. Ross, have a wonderful week and hope we're all blown away by tomorrow's Andor. I hope so too. Be well. Jason says, fun tonight as always. Love all the great insights and thoughts here. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you, Jason. Hope you all have a great week. I will see you next time. Looking forward to it. And remember, this is the podcast, the live podcast you are looking for. See you soon.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here.